Today we're looking at Brainwaves from Cosmos. Now this is actually a memory game and has 3 different sets. We're looking specifically at the Wise Whale edition. This will have a lot of cute sea creature art and very interesting clothing options, and it is up to you to try to gain different matching pairs.
Yeah, the idea is that these will help you increase your brain power if you play them a bunch, and this one focuses on the memory aspect. So you've got a grid of 3x3 cards. Each card has a sea creature with a color in the background. And players at the start of the game are going to have 2 minutes to study that grid and try to memorize the positions of these guys before they ultimately flip them all over into what looks more like a classic memory style grid. Then on a player's turn, they will flip over this top card right here, and they have to match this card to one of the ones on the field. So they could go with either a blue card to match the color, or they could look for a seahorse. Now, I wasn't really paying attention, but maybe, yeah, all right, great, I got a seahorse. Since I got that correct, I take this as a victory card. This new card now becomes the replacement. That will flip over, and the next player does the same thing. Now, if you get one right, you do get the chance to go up and do it again up to 3 times in a row to get even more victory points. Otherwise, if you fail, then you pass on the ability to the next player.
There are scaling difficulties in this game. You can either take different sets in or out. We already have all full here just to show it off. But the other and really the big twist in the game will be this die. Now, beginning of each match, you can roll this die as so. Now, if it's a dot, you have to match by color. It doesn't matter if you know where another whale is. You got to go for that blue. Luckily, like Jonathan said, there's a blue there. But if I get this little whale symbol, it means I have to match by creature. So this would not count as a match. This adds that extra difficulty because you can't just rely on one or the other. I, in particular, tend to rely on the creatures, so when I'm forced to go by color, that tends to be an issue.
Yeah. I know in our first game, I was really thinking about colors, and I was like, I'm going to remember this top row. It's green, blue, turquoise, whatever you call this. But, of course, with that die, that will complicate things. But that is the game. You go through until the deck runs out and until everybody has a bunch of cards and you see who has the most, and that player is the winner. Super simple.
Yeah. There is a solo mode as well. The difference in that being you're going to see just how your score ends up. Usually, let's say if I got this wrong, I flipped over the dolphin. The card will go to the bottom with the whale replacing that card. Single player, you just take it out, so you're pretty much on a timer, and you look at your score. They do not include if you got this score, this is what you get. You're really just comparing to your own scores. So that's a little bit of a bummer in some ways, but this is definitely aimed at a younger audience, I think. But the die will add that extra difficulty you may want as a parent, especially, to challenge yourself.
Yeah. It's a small game. It comes in a small box. What it made me think of when they first announced this series was Brainwaves, the video games that used to be on the Nintendo DS. I feel like it's that same kind of thing where it's like, oh, it's just kind of a fun, light activity that you can use to keep your brain fresh, keep your brain active. Younger kids definitely would like it. I do think that this game, it definitely feels slight. It's small, more on the filler side of games, and that's what it is. I feel like this was designed to be paired with one or both of the other two in the series, that they all kind of presumably complement each other, but we've only had access to this edition of the game. The other ones have totally different rule sets. They all focus on some other kind of thing, different animals as well, which is important to note. But for, a smaller, cheaper game, I think if you have kids or in this, something like a simple memory game sounds good to you, it might appeal to them.
Well, for me, it takes the memory game and makes it to it brings it up a bar to be manageable in terms of not just for if you're 5 years old. Because I did the solo mode, and just to give an idea of scores so you can compare to mine. Without the die using all the cards, I got about, I think it was a 30. Very good. I only missed 5 or so pairs.
Impressive.
I did with the die twice. My first score, I'm not going to mention, I'll just say it's negative. Because you subtract what you missed from what you got. The final one ended up being 5 or 6. So it's definitely at least for me, challenging with a die. So you could challenge yourself with that. You probably could, if you were playing with kids, make it so you have to use the die when they do not, which could help balance it out as well.
Yes, simple does not mean the same thing as easy.
Yes.
It's very, very simple, but if your memory is not great like ours, sometimes you may run into trouble as well. You do get this nice little pad of paper here. They say to keep track of your score, but of course, you could use this for whatever you want, just have a nice little set of Brainwaves stationery.
Sure, why not?
Crits and misses for Brainwaves, the Wise Whale. Crits. The game offers just enough with the optional die mechanic, along with some cute and colorful art, to elevate this matching memory game so that it's fun for more than just younger kids. The game offers a simple but well thought out solo mode, so if you're by yourself, you can challenge yourself to beat your high scores.
Misses. This is just a basic matching game, and this is best suited for younger audiences or parents who are playing with those younger audiences. Finding out your score in the single player mode is actually pretty fun, but they don't really have a score chart to compare it to. I can understand why they didn't put this in, especially with the age range they're probably aiming towards, but it is sort of fun to be able to look at your score in many games and see how well you did and see what you need to do to improve.
I don't think you need us to go into too much more depth as to our thoughts and feelings on this game. If you've seen it, I think you know whether this is something that would be well suited for you or a family member, a younger person, if you're a teacher, something for the classroom. But you know, it's a memory game. It's very straightforward. It is what it is. I do like the idea of this series, and I'm curious to try those other games. And I think if you find them appropriately priced, that it would be a fun pickup as just something to do. Maybe you're at the beach or something, you know, or you're just hanging out, like, you know, you're just with some friends, you're waiting at a restaurant or something. It's one of those little games that you can check out in your free time.
Well, going to the comparison you made much earlier with Brain Age, one of the fun aspects of that is it's a bunch of weird little games. And buying one, it's like, it's fun, I get it, I did it. But if you had either a bunch of the other sets, whether you just bought them, tried to fit them in one box, or if they make some bigger kind of big brainwave box, that could be a bit more interesting to be like, all right, we play this one, now you jump this one, because that also will force your brain to have to think around a bit more differently.
Yeah, that is what it feels more like to me, is that they're meant to be part of the set. Let us know, have you played these new Brainwaves games? Have you tried The Wise Whale or any of the other ones? And which one do you prefer? And what's your high score so that we can help Will out and find out how smart he is compared to our viewers?
Right. I don't think I'm smarter than most of them if I'm getting a negative score on my first.
We'll see. I don't think too highly of our audience. Prove me wrong in the comments down below. Until next time, I'm Jonathan.
I'm Will.
This has been Roll for Crit.
Catch the latest from Roll for Crit by liking and subscribing and supporting us on Patreon.
You're not a hidden traitor, are you? Come on, like us.